A few months ago I did a video where I took an aftermarket SPB185 case and did a sort of build salvaging some parts that I'd got for other projects that didn't quite work out and put them all together. I had a sort of steel grey 62 mass in an SPB185 case with a Heimdallr MM300 bracelet on it. And although it did look good for what it was, and depending on your taste you might really like that sort of thing, I wasn't satisfied with it. It was all too grey, and I thought, I think I just want to make it look like an SPB185 with the black dial and just, you know, the regular SPB185 hands rather than, say, putting the 62 mass hands on there, the newer ones. And so I've got some parts to make this look like an SPB185, and what really sealed the deal for me was this bracelet. £24 for an SPB185 bracelet, which I presume would fit on a SPB185 case, as well as this aftermarket one. So what we're going to do is, I've got one of these bracelets, and I've got a dial and some more hands from Monster Watches, albeit the dial, it's a sort of rust orange, dark orange, sort of a brownish dial. I thought it was the black one. I made a mistake and bought the brown one. But when it arrived, I thought it's a very nice quality dial, fantastic lume. I thought, I'm not sure what variant this is from, but it looks good. It might not be the black one. I couldn't find the black one anywhere, so this is the one I've got. We're going to put this on anyway, because I think, to me at least, it's going to look better than the grey, especially if it's dark enough. And we're just going to make this look like an SPB185 and try out that bracelet, because we've got this fantastic aftermarket case, and if we can get a nice cheap bracelet with it as well, this will essentially be an SPB185 for just over 150 quid, which is not bad. I mean, don't get me wrong, the £365 one that I did a few months ago is definitely better because it's using an OEM bracelet and an OEM case, and the quality speaks for itself. But this will be pretty cool for people that are really on a budget and they want something that looks like an SPB185 without the price tag. So let's do this.
The dial dot stayed on the dial. ever so slightly bent. It's better. Oh, there's like a little scuff in between the... see that? Right there. Oh, I guess beggars can't be choosers, huh? Still, that's a nice dial. Lovely sunburst. I think it's a subtle sort of rust brown, so it shouldn't look too egregious in comparison to a nice black dial with a much colder colour gamut. Okay. Let's get the hands on. Dial dots or no, that is a perfectly good dial. Quite a nice way to store them, I think. Oh, I guess my scissors just suck. Yeah. That's perfectly aligned. Let's press it on. Don't even have to press hard on this. Yeah, not bad. I don't know if it's on perfectly, but let's see when it turns over. Please be good. So a few minutes after, I'm happy with that. I'm not ecstatic about it, but I'm not going to pull the hands off a fourth time. Use the dry, clean Q-tip. Just get off any smudges. We're not. This is very lightly brushing it. Okay. Now the second hand. Arguably the easiest one because you don't have to align it. So you're going to use this large tipped one. Okay, here we go. Okay, it's on. Now let's press it down. That is on. Just a little. Right, let's see if it works. Okay, it's working. It might be a brown dial instead of a black dial, but
In this light, for instance, it just looks like a black dial with a sort of warm toned sunburst. I think this is going to look good. Alright, let's have a look at the spacing. Not too shabby. Not too bad at all. Yeah. I'm happy with that. Let's see where it turns over again. As you can see, no obstructions. And let's see. I think 4 minutes past. No, about 2 or 3. Let's get it back in this case. Case back's really hard to do with finger cots on. Just a light. We'll tighten it down properly in a minute. Yeah, now it just looks like an SPB185 with a large triangle. Not bad. Let's make sure there's nothing under the glass. That's on top of the glass, isn't it? Don't need any extra silicone grease. I did grease it last time. There. It's nice that this display case back fits on here. I don't know what the water resistance is like. These obviously aren't rated for 200 with this particular piece of glass in it, but a standard SKX007 display case back designed for the black spacer of the 7S, so it doesn't have the additional height for the NH36 grey spacer. That one, when I tried putting that one on here, it left a gap, whereas this one doesn't. It fits flush, so I don't know if it would do 200 meters, probably not, but it looks fantastic. And that, do you know what? That brown dial actually looks really nice in there. Very nice indeed, especially with those Monster Watches hands. Let's get this 24 quid MM200 bracelet on here, shall we? This has already been sized up for my wrist, but I will throw in some B-roll of what the pin and collars look like on this bracelet. There's nothing really out of the ordinary. They're actually really good, really nice long collars. Here is the OEM version of the bracelet with the nice diver's extended clasp on the OEM case. You can see the difference. The aftermarket version has a much larger triangle and a bit glossier, whatever the black paint is for the numbers in the bezel insert. So we want to see if this will fit on the OEM case. Maybe you buy the OEM case but you don't want to spend £100 on the OEM bracelet. It doesn't look quite as nice the middle link of the end lug there is much more defined on the OEM, whereas this one is basically just carved out of one piece. However, these side pieces here are actually perfectly rounded, look, as you can see, and it's sort of, I like the way it looks because it breaks up the pattern of the case instead of having this sort of perfect integration which can look a bit boring. And unfortunately, that's what they've done here. These angles pretty much line up with the lines on the case. As it was fitted on this anyway. I haven't tried it on the OEM case yet. So I'm going to just attach one end lug because they are both the same, and this is supposedly exactly the same in dimensions as the OEM case. So I'm going to pop out this end link here, pop in this one, and see if it fits. So we're going to put this to one side for a second. They call them spring bars for a reason. Because this is half of the video. This is how good is this aftermarket bracelet compared to this OEM one. If we look at it, the metal's even a different colour. And this does feel a bit more lightweight and a bit flimsier than this one. But it's still substantial for £24. This is not a bad bracelet. And I have tested this on the aftermarket case before I changed the dial and hands, and it's a very comfortable bracelet to wear. So apart from the fact that it feels a bit lightweight and the end lugs are just not quite as nice and defined as the OEM ones, and of course it's just a bog standard milled clasp, it's a nice bracelet, especially for £24. So let's take this end lug on here. I think that is going to fit. Wish I was a bit faster at this. Ah, gosh, I forgot how obnoxious this one goes on. Yeah, there you go. So, there it is, attached to the OEM case. What is that? Oh, it's just a bit. That is actually a perfect fit. The one thing that sort of sets it apart, actually, is the colour of the metal is different to the OEM case. The OEM, I wasn't kidding, the OEM bracelet is a sort of darker metal. It must be some sort of scratch-resistant coating, maybe, or just the way the type of metal they've used, but that's much lighter. But if you didn't want to buy an OEM bracelet for the OEM case, that is a perfect fit. Like I say, look, the lines on the end lug match up to the case. Still, that fits perfectly. So, the aftermarket bracelet does fit the OEM case. Now let's get it on the aftermarket case, shall we? Before I put this on, one thing I will say, if you're willing to spend a bit more money, this Heimdall bracelet is of higher quality than this MM200 bracelet. This is the Heimdall MM300 bracelet, but it does fit this MM200 case, although the end lugs do protrude downwards a bit because they're thicker than the case, but it's not a problem. You don't feel it when it's on wrist. The only downside is obviously the Heimdall clasp, but you know, if you can get one of these Blanc clasps and swap it, you wouldn't have that problem. But at least I've got choices now. If I want this sort of fake 5-link look with it's just single links that's had those middle sections carved into them, I can choose this. And if I want the stock MM200 look, albeit with slightly less premium looking end links, this is the one. And you'll notice as well, this aftermarket bracelet, the sides of the bracelet are not polished, whereas the OEM, these sides here, gosh, I wish it would focus on the actual thing. Whereas you can see the sides here are polished on the OEM version, whereas the aftermarket does not. Wow, can you stop? Just what are we doing, a seesaw? Are you joking? It's come out the other side again. It's one side on. Come on, push it down in. Go on in. Gosh, this seesaw act thing of one side then the other side. Oh, and then the whole thing comes out. Da 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 da. There we are. That is in. Let's give the crystal a wipe. And there we are. SPB185 now. No longer the 62 mass look inside the MM200 case. Yeah. Comfortable enough on wrist. There it is, all ready to my wrist. So you obviously can see that it's a sort of rust orange, rust brown colour. But it's not bad, is it? Shame about the bezel attachment though. It would have been nice if they had a proper click ring in there. Still, you know what? The case was about £40. The bracelet, 24. £64, you get the entire thing. Bear in mind the OEM version here. The case alone was 150 and the bracelet was 100. But I will say, if you want that premium OEM feel, you should go with this. Like, even though this is excellent value for money, in terms of quality, although it is so much for your money, this is just so much better. This feels like a, you know, a Heimdall diver, a steel diver. It feels good enough quality that you're amazed at the value for money, but when you compare it directly to the OEM version, it's no comparison. It just feels, everything about it feels better, the quality of it. And you've overshot that. Yeah, I always like the top of it to line up. I'll pop this back in here, off camera. Still, there we are. Dial and hand swap. Now looking like a sort of rust orange brown MM200 SPB185. I'm not sure what variant the orange dial is from, if such a thing even exists. The seller on AliExpress, this dial was £30. Said it was OEM. They said it's Seiko. They said it's OEM Seiko. But who knows? I don't know. All I know is it's OEM quality at the very least. Really good loom on here. I'll just give a preview loom shot. And these monster watches hands, the loom on those is absolutely phenomenal. Look at that. Yeah, in fact, the loom on the hands is slightly brighter than the dial. Yeah, not too bad all in all. Quite a fun little aftermarket MM200 build with a little display case back just to, you know, finish it off. Let's get this all cleaned up and we'll have a better look at it. So yeah, it looks a bit weird with the brown dial, sort of a rust sort of colour, but actually in certain lights it just looks like a regular SPB185 with a black dial with sort of a slightly off colour hue to the dial, as it is like a very warm version of it. I think it still looks pretty great actually. And in fact, my only issue with the bracelet is those end links. They've taken that sort of very basic approach where they've clearly molded it to fit the case, but then they haven't bothered to sort of file down the two side parts of the end link, because it's supposed to look like a 3-link. It just sort of lacks that extra detail, but it still looks good. It fits. If I had the tools to do it, I would actually grind these two side bits off, round them down to make them look like the original. If they did that and charged like 30 quid for the bracelet instead of 24, at least the one I got was 24, that would be so worth it. Solid links, solid end links, milled clasp. Yes, it feels lightweight. Yes, it feels a bit cheap. It is cheap, but it's a lot of bracelet for your money. And again, if you're on a budget, it's worth it. And if you want to spend a bit more, as I showed in the previous video, the Heimdall bracelet for the MM300 does fit this case and is really nice. So you've got options. Price-friendly options, which is great. And yeah, I'm really happy with this just looking like an SPB185. You just can't knock those monster watches' hands. They are so good. They are OEM quality in terms of lume and polish and finish. Fantastic. I cannot tell you enough about how good they are. The fact that I've already bought 2 sets of hands from them, really good stuff. And again, although the dial is not the black dial that I wanted, and it's a sort of very warm version of that, it still looks good, and I think it does look better than the grey 62 mass dial. Let me know in the comments, what do you think I should do with the 62 mass dial, that grey dial? I did have to take the dial feet off it, so it's a dial dot job, and I still have those 62 mass hands. I don't know what to do with them. But for the time being, they're just going to sit in the protective cases and not do anything. But I'd be interested to know what you might do with them. So let me know in the comments. But anyway, that's enough waffling from me. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.